Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. You're with Najman Sari here, and we're trying to connect with the Quran. And inshallah, we will be looking at Surah Maida today. So we will listen to a recording of it, of a selected ayah that I chose to want to highlight and use that as a key for the whole surah. But inshallah, we will listen to a recording. So, A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem. Bismillah Rahmanir Rahim.
حرمت عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل لغير الله به والمنخنقة والموقوذة والمتردية والنطيحة وما أكل السبع إلا ما ذكيتم وما ذبح على النصب وأن تستقسموا بالأزلام ذلكم فسق اليوم يئس الذين كفروا من دينكم فلا تخشوهم واخشون اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام ديناً فمن اضطر في مخمصة غير متجانف لإثم فإن الله غفور رحيم
رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ربي يسر ولا تؤسر وتمم بالخير يا فتاح يا عليم وبك نستعين Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, as-salatu wa-salam ala Rasulillah. So, welcome dear listeners to another episode. We've been working through the Quran of just giving an overview at the very beginning, then going into Surah Fatiha, Surah Baqarah, Al Imran, just selected ayahs and trying to give you an overview so that it will kindle enough interest for you to want to go ahead and have a look at it for yourself. So here I just selected one passage, which is ayah number 3 of Surah Maida. And I would encourage you to, if you want to go, open your Mus'haf, find it where it is. And then inshallah, I will go through it. But again, I do like to do recaps and just go back in that from a certain point of view. There are surahs are grouped together as we into groups together. Sometimes it's one. Surah Fatiha was a Makki surah, and Surah Baqarah and Al Imran go as a pair. They call the Zahrawain. Then Surah Nisa and Maida go as a pair, and all four of them are Madani surahs. And the beauty of them is that in a certain way they are a build-up chronologically telling you how Surah Baqarah was a fledgling Medina society, what the rules and regulations needed to be there. It was bringing us through the whole idea that the Bani Israel were the chosen people, and now the mantle of leadership of the Muslim community, the upholders of the Deen of Allah, has been taken away from them, and it's been given to the Bani Ismail, namely the Muslims, the Arabs. So there was a lot of that discussion in Surah Baqarah. Al Imran continued with that. And those surahs that go together, something was mentioned in Surah Baqarah, Al Imran continued it. Something was in the reverse order. Surah Baqarah mentioned in more detail, and Al Imran just mentioned it in passing. They do use historically two historical moments in which Surah Baqarah talks about pre-battle, pre-Badr, building the Muslim society. Now you're in Medina, you've got your own place, you do have to go and liberate the Kaaba. So there was a pre-Battle of Badr commentary. In Surah Al Imran, we have a post-Uhud Battle of Uhud commentary. And so, the way for you to remember is B for Badr, B for Surah Baqarah. So that is what's mentioned there. And just find another way of remembering. Al Imran has post Uhud. So post Uhud is where there were 70 shuhada, when it was a sorrowful occasion of what happened. We're not going to say it was a defeat. It was a strategy. Whatever happened, it only increased the resolve. So when you talk about even the concept of hardship or something comes, to actually just strengthen your metal. It's also about, tightening up your belt. And we know this in relationship, that's what happened. So with that background, then we went into Surah Nisa, which is now the society is getting more conformed. So we were talking at the micro level. I'm just going to use my terminology for it. It's talking about relationships. It's using about, if you are able to take care of the most vulnerable of society, the orphans and the female orphan, and work from there. If you get your baseline sorted within a family structure, then your society already will start flourishing. So a lot of that was talked about in Surah Nisa. We did it a bit in last time, very briefly. We showcased the first ayah and how we said how, oh, you mankind, everybody has come from the single source, and from there the Zawj was made, and from there we had multitude of humanity just scattered wide. Just to sort of conclude on that topic, just a few things I'll raise. But interestingly, the very last ayah of Surah Nisa talks about throughout this talk about inheritance. If there are two children and one child, if there are two girls and one boy, how's the division? And if there are only girls, what's the division? And so on and so forth. And if there's no mother or no father, there are a variety of that. And I don't want to go into the fiqh thing, but a couple of things. It always says you distribute the inheritance after fulfilling the debts and obligations, and then you'd start dividing the inheritance. The other thing, why strategically this is important here, because in Al Imran, as we saw, we had 70 shuhada, the people came back, so we had what happens to the inheritance of the heirs of those departed shuhada. So that's where it started from. I mean, that's using the link to where it's coming from, the connection. And here, a lot of that is talked about. A lot of what is talked about also is about the hypocrites, because in Makki, there was no concept of hypocrisy. You were so downtrodden as Muslims, you were only going to be a Muslim if you truly, truly cared to be a Muslim. Here now, strategically, it's become, we're getting a bit more popular, or we're getting a bit more, consolidated. So, we as humankind, or the fitra, we always like to attach ourselves to where there's greater benefit. So now the hypocrites are seeing there is benefit in aligning themselves with the Muslim. They seem to be a force to be reckoned with. And they kept wavering, and they kept stabbing us in the back, and a lot of that. So a lot of that is being discussed in Surah Nisa. The two beautiful things I like also, which made me remember this surah, is in Taraweeh, or to be able to recognize it. Because the beautiful thing about the Quran is, we may not be Hufaz, or anywhere near it, but if you can find certain ayahs in each surah, and that will help you, that whenever you hear is, well, I know for sure this is this. And along the way, I'll share with you in the various surahs, in all surahs, inshallah, what one or two ayahs I love to memorize so that I know. So this is what I chose from Surah Nisa, was right at the beginning. And then that's the only one I know memorized there, but it was beautiful. And at the end, it just happens to talk about the one inheritance. We're talking about flowering and everything in the very first ayah. The last ayah is talking about, what if somebody does not have any parents above him, any offspring beneath him, and left or right or whatever. And so what is the condition with that person? How do you distribute his wealth? So that's that. The beautiful thing I love in Surah Nisa is that it talks about wala nasira, or it talks about how you won't be helped or you will be helped. And there's a few Rabbanas, and it comes about 7 times, the term Nasira, if you can recognize it. The other beautiful term that comes in Surah Azizun Hakim is repeated multiple times. I'm not sure if it's 11 times or more. Azizun Hakim. These two phrases generally also go together. Sometimes it's Aziz Zuntiqam, he's powerful and he's very capable of taking revenge. That's in different passages too. But inshallah here, it comes that frequently, and we will look at it now after the break, of how significant those two names going together, that he's the most powerful and he's also the one full of wisdom. So we will look at that now after we take a brief break. And inshallah, I just strongly recommend you to, if you can open up your musafs, open up it on Surah Maida, and it's ayah 3 that we listen to, and inshallah we will get into that too eventually. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. We've just been doing an overview of the surahs we've covered so far, and we did Surah Nisa in the last episode, and I was just covering that and just bringing some. There's just so much to share. You don't know where to start, what to, in the brief time that we have together, what to bring to the fore. So now I'll just get straight into Surah Maida that pairs with Surah Nisa. So if Surah Nisa, we're looking at a micro level of relationships, of how the nitty-gritty needs to be done. Here we're looking at let's say, and I'm using this just for it to penetrate us. There's a lot in both the surahs, and I've just, it's not even the tip of the iceberg. It's just a little drop in the ocean that I've picked out from Surah Nisa, and the same thing now with Surah Maida, that as a surah, it's looking at it, consolidating at the government level, let's say, but that's just my words for saying it, but it's reiterating the covenant that we made. And the interesting thing is, Surah Nisa talks about Ya Ayyuhan Nas, because everybody has a root that we came from the one womb. Everybody experiences that. Here in Surah Maida, it starts with Ya Ayyuhan Nas. And it talks about fulfill the covenants that you're made to cover. So here, the background again after and also in terms of timing, Surah Maida is now, it's post liberation of the Kaaba. So now we are a force to reckon with, and the Jews and the mushrik have now kind of given up hope on us being able to be demolished, us being able to be putting the fire out at all. No, we are there to stay. So the background, and for us, now that you're there, the first thing you need to take heed of is your covenants. Fulfill them, and fulfill them to the T, and be scrupulous about them. So a lot of the conversation that continues now in Surah Maida at a group level, at a government level, at a community level, is to do with fulfilling contracts. Then he goes into the history of from the time of Adam alayhi salam. You see, this is the beautiful thing, that if you do read the Quran in sequence, in getting the story of Bani Israel as a showcasing an example of a community and what they did and where they went wrong, in Al Imran of talking to the Christians of Najjar and how they behaved, and and when in Surah Baqarah we talked about Iblis at the very first, of realizing how ego and how kibr gets into you. So with that move here, what is being reiterated time and again is that the covenant from the time of Adam alayhi salam to all the way down to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has always been the same. The Sharia, you could have married two sisters once upon a time, you can't marry them there, so there's variation of that, but the basic tawheed and risala and for guidance and akhirah, that these are the things, they have been there always. The risala was through the different nabis, and now here. At this, so this is what is in here. The fact that historically now they've given up on thinking that they can do away with you. So where do people then start to attack you? Now that we are a country, or we are a nation state, and we've got this place, there are two places people try to erode you. First is on your family. They love to destroy your family structure, where morality goes. So that is maybe what we can say in Surah Nisa, maybe a little bit of that's what was highlighted. Just stay strong on your firm, on your family matters, on your inheritance. Don't change anybody. Here, what is being talked about is how, on the nitty gritty, and in the very beginning of these ayahs, hold fast to your covenant, and then this third ayah. So the first ayah was on obligation, which I didn't play out for you, but it's on that fulfill your covenant, okay, and so on. And then it gets immediately into food matters, on what is halal, what's not, and the ayah we listened to on ayah number 3 was, it started off with all the things you're not supposed to eat, the one that fell down, the one that was gored to death, the one that was killed by another animal, on and on. And what I'm wanting to highlight is bang in the middle of that long ayah number 3 is the ayah where, and today we have perfected your religion. So you'd sort of think, what has that got to do in the middle of a discussion on food? But the thing is, and I'll tell you, this is what I loved about it, is just a line before that in the sentence, it was that these people, they have now given up of thinking that they will be able to crush you. But now, and Allah saying, so don't fear them, fear me. And then saying that today I perfected your deen and I have chosen Islam for you, is to say that don't let them derail you. Now, where are they going to derail you? And this, I hope many of you can relate to, whether it's a corporate, at work, or working and living and dealing with non-Muslims. We always say, ah man, what does it matter? It doesn't matter. Okay, so if we're drinking, it's okay, but you don't have to drink, but at least come to the pub, come to this. It's at food level, which is a very basic thing. They try to say, and we know very well that in the West, there wasn't the facility of having halal. You would say, you just say a Bismillah and eat, and so on and so forth. But these are things, and what you intake inside impacts your iman. So again, this close relationship of these ayahs that start off, of the close relationship of how your iman is strengthened when you hold on firm to even what you eat, how you do, and we have, our deen is so beautiful at every level. It tells you, do it this way, enter with your right foot, do it this way, say this dua, say that dua. So, this is the beauty of our faith, that we are constantly at a spiritual level, day to day, moment to moment, and at the same time, you enact what you enact. So here it's talking about food. Just to wrap up as much as I can, and so this ayah right in the middle, which they consider it also one of the last ayahs, some say it's the last, but some say it's only the last in terms of ahkam, of what was told, how to do it, that today your religion has been perfected. Now, at the tail end of Maida, talking about covenants, talking about the covenants through the prophets, also giving direct examples of how you need to be, the penal code, because you see, the whole concept of akhirah, how does it work in your society also? And until I feel safe that if somebody comes and hassles me, I have a recourse to the government to have that person be brought to account. When there's no accountability, people do what the heck they like. So from that point of view, this is all also brought into Surah Maida, and it's so deep. I'm not in a fit person to be able to giving you all the akam and the fiqh matters that come up. But at the tail end, it's a surah of 120 ayahs, from ayah 109 or so. Allah is now creating the scene of akhirah and asking now, and he's letting us know that he's going to be asking the nabis, all the rasuls, what did you say? Did you fulfill your covenant of telling people, bringing people the message? And our rasuls, sallallahu him and all the others will say, yes, Ya Allah, we did the best we can. And then he will take to task Isa alayhi salam. It's, it gives you goosebump moments of, he's going to be asked, did you ask the people to worship you and your mom? And he said, no, and not at all. And then he backtracks and he says, had I done so, you would surely know it. And you know what's in my heart, but I don't know what's in yours. It's in your nafs. And all that goes to take us to the point where he's being accounted, and he says, no, I fulfilled my covenant and told them that it was you, it was Tawheed, Tawheed, Tawheed. So that's what's being reiterated at the end of this. Then the beautiful thing I love to bring into, but it's a beautiful dua of the Last Supper. So it's the Hawariyin, the Sahabi of Isa alayhi salam, who believed, and he said, please write us down as the Shahid, as the people who witnessed that. And then they asked, I said, please Allah, please Isa alayhi salam, ask Allah, I'm just paraphrasing, ask Allah to give us a supper. And he said, why don't you believe? Why do you want a miracle? He says, no, but it will just sort of satisfy our soul. And this has happened before as well, with Ibrahim alayhi salam, that, we do need sometimes itminan qalb. So that comes. So then Allah says, yes, I will send you. And so Isa alayhi salam ask Allah, please Rabbana, Allahumma, and that's the few times, one of the rare times when Rabbana and Allahumma come together. So it's like a double emphasis, a double-barreled emphasis. Oh Allah, please send us a Maida from the heavens for the first of us and the last of us, so that we may have an Eid. So Allah says, yes, He doesn't question anything. He says, yes, I will. But if after this, and this is frequently the sunnah of the Prophet, that if after a miracle like the people of Ad and Samud, you still don't believe, then you're going to be annihilated. And then it's a very severe ayah that comes after that, which says that, and then I'm going to have a punishment from me, a real punishment, which unlike of that which anybody has seen. So that's a very severe punishment. But then it goes on to wind up that Allah is Aziz and Hakim, or two other sifat of Allah, if I'm wrong in saying those two. But that also comes up frequently in Surah Maida. It only comes up about 2 or 3 times, but in Surah Nisa it came up often. And why is Aziz and Hakim is important? Because when you are Aziz, you're the powerful one, and at a worldly level, as soon as I gave him power, the wisdom goes out of my mind. So Allah time and again shows He's got all powerful, He's all wise, and He has control of all your things. So again, that should give us a solace. So the take-home message here with the 2 surahs is that, relationships are significant. Relationships, if you keep your family ties, your bond at the family level, and you let it spill over at a government level, and the government is also squeaky clean. If our governor has a good relationship at home with his wife and children, inshallah, he will also be a good governor for us. And we also, so that is the main of these 2 surahs that go together. But in a nutshell, in this little brief time, that's all I'll be able to share with you for the moment. And inshallah, within our recaps, we'll just keep adding a few more points of relevance. So Allah forgive me if I have derailed or I haven't been able to say appropriately what needed to be said. And so Allah forgive me in the first, and I pray for all of you out there that you will love to want to connect to the Quran, and for myself first and foremost. And inshallah, with that I end. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun al mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.